Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kendra. Well, welcome to the March CPS Coordinators Forum, How to Leverage Data to Support Your Program. It's March of 2024. I am Mandy Seetaler and the moderator for this session. I'm the Community Engagement Representative for the National Child Passenger Safety Board. I'm also the Alaska CPS Coordinator, and I'm so honored to be here today and share this fun session with you. So once again, if you're just joining us, if you'll put your name and where you're from in the chat and your state flower. It's okay to Google. Next slide. So as a reminder, attendees are requested to not participate in this webinar if you're operating a motor vehicle. The recording for this session will be posted in just a couple of days to cpsboard.org/coordinators/forum. It'll be there in a couple of days and you can watch it when you've safely reached your destination. So I'd like to welcome all of our fantastic speakers, and I will turn it over to you to introduce yourself as you begin. Thank you. Oh, remember to put your questions in the chat.
Great. Thank you so much. We appreciate the introduction, and thank you all for taking the time to be here this afternoon. My name is Jennifer Bogue. I am the field training coordinator for the National Digital Car Seat Check Forum. And this afternoon, I'll be giving you just a real high level, and really for those who may be new to the NDCF, giving you some high level information about the NDCF. And then I will turn it over to Dr. Elizabeth Petraglia, who will spend some time taking a deeper dive into the data. So Elizabeth, do you want to just introduce yourself, and then we'll go ahead and get started?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Petraglia from WestNet.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. And then once we're done with our presentation and our overview, we are going to turn it over to two state coordinators. We have Sid Bradley, and we also have Cesi Velez, who will be talking about how they are utilizing the data in the NDCF to drive programming efforts in other ways within their state. And so we're really hoping that this can be conversational. If you have questions as we move through the presentations, if you want to please type them in the chat. We have Amy Artuso ready to help answer those questions. And then we're hoping that we'll have some time at the end for just some open Q&A, and hopefully we can do a little walkthrough of the data dashboards and the table tools and show you how to use your data and where to find it. And how to sort through that data. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. I want to introduce you to our NDCF team. Many of you already know those key partners that are involved in the NDCF, but the National Digital Car Seat Check Form is managed by the National Safety Council. We also provide field trainings. We meet with our team on a weekly basis to go over any of the feedback that we receive from technicians and program managers in the field that are utilizing the NDCF, and we take all of that information that we receive, and that's how we grow the program. That's how we make changes to the program and make updates to it. We want programs and technicians to know that this is a resource that's been built by technicians for technicians. And as we grow the resource and make updates to it, it's really that feedback that we get from state coordinators, from program managers, and from those technicians that are utilizing it out in the field. And that's how we make those changes and updates to the NDCF. So keep that feedback coming. We really appreciate any of that, those opportunities to engage and look at ways to improve the resource. We work closely with our friends at WestNet that do all of our data analysis. They make all of us look really, really smart. So they take all of that raw data, they package it neatly, and present it back to us in the form of those data dashboards and table tools so that we can easily look through that data, identify those areas for opportunities for growth, and really looking at taking a closer look and an analysis of what's happening around your region, around your state, and even within some of those local programs. We also work closely with our friends at Tennessee Tech University iCube. They are the software developers. They are the ones that make sure that the information is stored on a HIPAA compliant server. They do all of the updates to the NDCF, and they are also the ones that will help you if you have issues with your account. So if you are new to the NDCF, and we'll talk about this in just a few minutes, but if you are new to the NDCF and looking at gaining access to your data, Tennessee Tech would be the ones that would be able to help you with that. So we are so proud of the partners that we have and the relationships that we have with those partners. We also receive financial support through and program support through the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, as well as our friends at AAA Mountain West Group. In addition, we lean heavily on our friends at the National Child Passenger Safety Board. And so as we receive feedback from the field and we're looking for opportunities to improve the resource, we meet with the CPS board on a regular basis and to discuss some of those changes. We want to make sure that it aligns with the curriculum, that it aligns with the technology out in the field, and that we're giving technicians the best opportunity to collect the data on the form that truly reflects what's happening within that car seat inspection when they're working with that caregiver. So again, we are very proud of these partnerships and very appreciative. Next slide, please. So hopefully you all are aware that the NDCF is a free resource and it is available to all certified child passenger safety technicians. So it doesn't matter what program affiliation they have, or if maybe they're an independent technician. So maybe during the day they work for a hospital program, and then on nights and weekends they work independently and assist caregivers with their car seats and car seat inspections. It is a free resource, so any certified child passenger safety technician can create an account. It generally takes just a couple minutes to create the account. It will take upwards of 1 to 3 business days for that account to be approved. It is live people on the end with our friends at Tennessee Tech that are approving these accounts. And so once that account, that request for an account hits the system, they will be notified of that. They'll verify certification, and then they will go ahead and approve that account. Technicians have to also understand that they do need to update their certification card when they recertify, so that we can make sure that their account is linked to that certification cycle. So they'll enter in that information. And then when they recertify, they can just simply upload a current copy of their certification card. If a technician forgets to upload a current copy of their certification card, they will get blocked out of their account. And that really is to protect the fidelity of the information that's being collected. We want to make sure that only certified technicians are collecting the information that's being inputted into the system. But the data doesn't disappear. It's always there. And once they update their certification, they will then have access to all of the information within their account. Next slide, please. So the NDCF does guide the user through this 5-step process. We begin by collecting that caregiver information, the child on arrival, then the car seat on arrival, on departure information, and then the caregiver sign off. We have built-in features that are designed to help shorten the length of time that it takes to collect that car seat information. So we have skip patterns, we have machine logic that's built into those electronic platforms, and then we have those situational questions, which most default to NA, so that if it doesn't apply, you can just skip right past those. But with that skip pattern and the machine logic built in, it does streamline the way that that technician is collecting that information and gives them more time to be able to spend with that caregiver. We recognize that it might take 2 or 3 times to utilize the NDCF out in the field before they start feeling comfortable with the process. But once they understand those skip patterns and how those situational questions are designed to help move them through more quickly, they're going to recognize that the form will help speed up that process and give them more time to spend with the caregiver. Next slide, please. One of our little known secrets, and I think we're always surprised when we hear that people don't know that the NDCF is designed to be used out in the field. You can use the app, the mobile app. If you download the app, go to the App Store, look for car seat check form. You'll look for that little green square with the white car seat in it. And then you download that app onto your device, and it's designed to be used in airplane mode. You do not need a MiFi. You don't need a hotspot. You don't need data connection to be able to use the app out in the field. And we still have a lot of programs that don't know that, that you don't have to have those features. All you have to do is download the app, log into it one time. You can collect all of your car seat inspection data, bring it back to the office, take it out of airplane mode, and then you can review your seat checks and then upload them into your account. And it doesn't necessarily even apply to just those rural areas. It could be those, let's say you're working at a fire station and you have great Wi-Fi inside the building, but you go out into the parking lot and maybe you don't have great connection. So in those situations, even in those urban areas, to avoid any connectivity issues, we want to make sure that the technicians place that device in airplane mode to avoid, again, any of those connectivity issues, collect that data, and then bring it back to the office to upload those seat checks. Next slide, please. So some of our goals, our data collection goals, when it comes to using the NDCF and collecting that car seat inspection data, doing it electronically is going to provide those technicians as well as programs and state coordinators the ability to be able to track that information in real time. So as soon as a seat check hits the system, meaning it's been uploaded into the system, you as a state coordinator, program managers are going to be able to have immediate access to that seat check activity. You'll be able to look at it in your raw data. You'll be able to use the clean data dashboards and the table tools to identify your misuse, your non-use of car seats and booster seats and seat belts around your area, and really being able to monitor those trends and patterns of car seat distribution, your misuses, your activity around your state so that you can drive your messaging depending upon what those misuses might be regionally within your state, or even looking at your car seat distribution programs and looking where there might be more need in certain areas and in developing that plan to be able to provide more outreach where it might be necessary. Also being able to leverage the data to enhance those outreach and educational strategies, because we know that those outreach strategies are going to look a little bit different, whether it's an urban environment or it's a rural area of the state. So being able to utilize that data to see where those needs are. And then also being able to access that information for your grants and your public education and your media campaigns. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we have our new numbers. We are just over 190,000 seat checks. I was really hoping we were going to hit 200,000 before we got to Lifesavers, and we are so close to that. But how exciting. This just means that technicians are doing an amazing job, those boots on the ground, collecting that car seat inspection data and working with those caregivers and meeting them where they are. We are inputting roughly 5,000 to 8,000 seat checks per month, depending upon the month. And you can see here, this is just a snapshot of the data dashboard. And you can see here that we had an unprecedented year in 2023. So we are continuing to grow, which is very exciting. Next slide, please. So those of you who are looking for your dashboards, and maybe you haven't had a chance to look at the dashboards for your state program, maybe you're new to it, you're new in your position or new to the NDCF, what you want to do is make sure that you log into your account. So go to the homepage at carseatcheckform.org, log into your account, and then underneath the data tab, you're going to see the national dashboards. You're going to see your dashboards in both the clean versions of your dashboards and the raw version of your dashboards. So if you just look up on that menu bar at the top of the homepage, that's where you will be able to find your dashboards. And I know Elizabeth will talk more about what the dashboards have in them and what you might be able to find. So just wanted, for those of you that are new, just wanted you to be aware of where you can find those dashboards. So if you are a technician and a state coordinator, you're going to have two dashboards. You'll have your own personal dashboard, and then you'll also have one for your state program. Next slide, please. So we have a lot of different resources that are available to you as state program managers and territory managers, and then also our Indian Health Services partners. We have a lot of resources available on our website at carseatcheckform.org. And then we also have resources on the cpsboard.org website /NDCF. So cpsboard.org /NDCF. We have a lot of tutorial videos and other information that is available to you. So if you, we have user guides, we have the videos, we have links to printables, and as well as those data dashboards. So if you don't have an account currently with the NDCF, you can go to the cpsboard.org website or the NDCF website, and you'll be able to view that public facing view of those data dashboards as well. So we encourage you to take a look at that. Next slide, please. So gaining access to your data. So if you, again, do not currently have an account to be able to access your state or territory data, this is our little flow chart here that describes how you would go about doing that. So we do verify. We generally look at the public facing NHTSA state contacts list. If your name is not on that list, we will reach out to your regional program manager, your RPM, just to make sure that you should be receiving that information, because we want to make sure to get it in your hands. We just want to make sure we get it to the right person. So we can provide you with additional information about how that process works if you're interested in it. But please feel free to reach out to us, and we are happy to connect you and get that data dashboard to you. Next slide, please. We do also have this additional new resource that is designed to help support, provide information on ways to help support programs in adopting and utilizing the data that's being collected through the NDCF. And so we have a link for this. Amy Artusa will drop the link into the chat. This is our NDCF report. We encourage you to review that report that really highlights the importance of good data collection and utilizing that data to help drive your programming efforts. And so again, we encourage you to take a look at that. If it's available in an electronic version, if you'd prefer to have a hard copy, I'm happy to mail one to you. Next slide, please. Again, we have training information found at cpsboard.org, where you can find those tutorial videos and those how-to guides. We also have information about webinars. If you're interested in webinars or any trainings, I am happy to assist you with that as well. So you can feel free to reach out. Next slide, please. And here is my contact information. And then also our friend Allie at Tennessee Tech can help you with any account information that you might have. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Elizabeth Petraglia, who will dive a little deeper into the state data. Thank you, Elizabeth.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, Jennifer got to talk about all the, like how you get set up and kind of big picture NDCF and all of that. I'm going to get more into sort of the data and the dashboards. I do have a lot of slides that I'm going to go through very quickly. The idea is just to kind of give you a taste of what's out there and what's available through the NDCF, but being mindful of the time we have today, and definitely with opportunity to elaborate more on the questions at the end, or my contact information will be in here too. I'm happy to answer any questions or talk more about how to do some of these things for your state. So anyway, next slide. So just looking to kind of see where everyone's states are at, states are at different levels of engagement with the NDCF. And you can access this stuff right on the NDCF website. So if you're on carseatcheckform.org, you can go to the data page and select view number of agencies, and you'll see this map. So this map depicts the number of agencies currently registered with the NDCF. So the darker the color, the more agencies registered with the NDCF. If you hover over a state, you'll see the exact number of agencies we have registered. So picking the states of our fellow presenters, we can see Vermont has 120 agencies and Washington State has 82. Next slide. Next, on the data page, you can also see view number of accounts. So this will depict the number of accounts currently registered with the NDCF. Darker the color, the more accounts. Again, looking at Washington State and Vermont, we've got 356 accounts in Vermont and 331 in Washington State. Next slide. And so then we can kind of see what all the agencies and techs have been up to in the states. So again, the darker the color, the more checks. So if you go to data, national dashboard, and then map, you can see that Vermont has 9,152 checks. It's one of the darkest states on the map. And Washington State has 7,633. So these are states that have been very active in the NDCF, and we very much appreciate all the effort there and the checks that their techs have contributed. So next slide. So how do we take all of these great car seat checks and transform them into usable data? Well, the first step is professional data cleaning and preparation. We do some analysis and finally present them in data dashboards. Next slide. So as with any data set that you want to use, before analysis occurs, we take several steps to clean the data. And what that means is we're creating a data file that's ready for analysis in statistical software. Your raw data are always available on the website. So just exactly as you entered it, it's available in real time. Like Jennifer said, that's never changed. That stays as a record of exactly what you entered. So the cleaning and preparation that we do really enhances the data and is designed to make it more usable. So for example, if a tech can't find a vehicle on the drop-down list, and so they pick a vehicle for the 2023 model year and then write in the trim field, this was actually a 2024 model year vehicle. During data cleaning, I'll go in and I'll, update the vehicle model year, so it's 2024. Or, I know when you're out in the field, like the drop-down menus can get small and hard to click. So one of the things I'll also do is check, if there's a check where the seat on arrival and the seat on departure are very, very different. So like a kid comes in a high back booster and leaves in a rear facing only seat, that kind of seems inconsistent. So I'll look at that record and look at the car seat make and model and make sure that, yes, this car seat make and model is actually for a high back booster. It actually is the way it says it was, rather than, someone picked the wrong thing off the drop down. So again, we're basically just trying to make sure that the data are clean and consistent, correct any errors or things that need to be updated, and your raw data are always preserved as a record for exactly what was entered. Next slide, please. So yep, as I've mentioned before, the raw data are always available. It can be downloaded from the home page. Again, this is exactly as the technician entered it. It comes out in Excel format, which means you can sort and filter by car seat makes and models, vehicle makes and models. You can, it's your data, it's downloadable. You can change it or manipulate it however you want, and it will never affect what we have on our website. So next slide, please. For analysis, we use the clean data file, which you can also access through the dashboard about a month to 2 months, depending on how quickly we get everything turned around after the fact. So using the clean data file, we undertake analysis. Like Jennifer showed you, we've got a little over 190,000 car seat checks, which is fantastic. We do tend to see mostly rear-facing seats, mostly checks with infants or unborn children, which I'm sure makes sense to you all seeing families come to checks. And we've got about a 69% overall misuse rate. Next slide, please. So once the cleaning and analysis is complete, we move the data into data dashboards. So these dashboards will include all of the results and feed them into a bunch of different charts, graphs, and maps, again, trying to serve, the technicians and coordinators. So, again, feedback on the dashboard and what's available to you is always welcome as well. We display multiple findings and a few summary displays. They're designed to be in a user-friendly format with the idea of making the data that you all worked so hard to collect and your technicians have worked so hard to collect more useful to all users. They're supposed to make trends easier to identify and to understand. We do use a tiered access system, which means, you have your national level dashboard. All technicians have access to a dashboard with just the car seat checks that they conducted. You state coordinators can see a dashboard with all the checks that occurred in your state. Car seat and vehicle manufacturers will also be able to see checks with all of their car seats and all of their vehicles. So that adds up to about well over 3,000 dashboards every month that we're producing. And all of the information that I'm going to kind of present in further slides, as well as a bunch more, is available on your state coordinator dashboard. Next slide. So I'm going to go very quickly through these findings just to be mindful of our other presenters and their time. But again, like I said, happy to answer more questions or discuss anything further. So next slide, please. Data coverage. So this picture is actually a picture of my now 5-year-old modeling misuse. I promise I did not drive him anywhere in his seat like this. But the idea is that it's important to remember that the NDCF is a non-representative subset of all children traveling in vehicles in the US. And what that means is you can't take the misuse rates to represent the entire US, all children traveling in vehicles. So it only accurately describes children that attend car seat checks. So as we saw before, it's heavily overrepresented by infants in rear-facing only seats because those are the kids coming to seat checks. Next slide. So the NDCF misuse rate is not an accurate overall misuse rate for all children in the US. It only applies to NDCF seat checks. So we've gotten a lot of feedback that our misuse rate seems a bit low. And that's in part because these are caregivers who are coming to a seat check. Often it's caregivers who are more aware of safety resources and participate in more safe activities. So for now, just keep in mind that everything you see on your dashboard applies only to your seat checks. Next slide. Another caution, so I'm sure all of you are aware of how much information gets collected as part of a complete car seat check. So our data cleaning team is mostly me. And so while I do as much cleaning as I can, we don't manually double check every single piece of information. We trust what the technicians have entered. There are some pieces of information that we don't really clean at all. Height, weight, and car seat model in particular are not pieces of information that we look at all. It's just kind of too hard to validate and verify. So just a little bit of caution if you use those fields to analyze anything that, you might see 1,000-pound children, and that is what the technician entered. All right, so even though the NDCF doesn't represent the entire US, you can still learn some things and see some interesting findings on your dashboards. So I'm going to go very quickly through a few slides with national NDCF data. On your state dashboard, you'll be able to find, state-specific versions of this. So what seats are we seeing? Again, we're seeing largely rear-facing only seats, fewer forward-facing, even fewer booster seats. Next slide. What ages are we seeing? Again, it's very heavily towards this birth through 1 age, much fewer older children, both overall, and also we pulled the numbers for Vermont and Washington. Right, next slide. Thank you. Misuse rates, you can get these by seats. So we see that overall about 80% of forward-facing seats arrived at NDCF checks with at least one misuse. That's about 16 percentage points higher than the rear-facing only seats. So you can kind of see the variation in misuse by type of seat. Next slide. Child age, misuse by child age. You can see that our 3 to 4-year-olds have the highest rate of misuse. And that kind of goes together with the forward-facing seats also having the highest misuse. Next slide. So again, those are very quick national level findings. You can see more for your state, do deeper analysis on everything in the NDCF. We are kind of planning more to come too. We're continuing to, as we get more checks, we can do more analysis. We're also attempting to identify underserved communities, so areas where there are children but no NDCF checks. And we're putting together some maps about that will be posted on the dashboard and explained in future presentations, so stay tuned. Next slide. And I think, yeah, Jennifer already kind of went over some of this. So next slide. Yeah, so I think this is all covered in Jennifer's presentation. Next slide. And then at the bottom there is my email address. I do not have a carseatcheckform.org email, but all of you are welcome to email me with data-specific questions. I don't know anything about the website or logging in or all of that, but if you have questions specific to your data, I'm happy to have a conversation at any time. So thank you very much.
Elizabeth, we do have a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
Is the misuse rate on the dashboard calculated, and I think this is for the national dashboard, but also if you can answer for the state dashboards, is the misuse rate on the dashboard calculated based on all the car seats entered or only those that are installed on arrival?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's only those that are installed on arrival, because we assume that if the car seat is not installed on arrival, there's really not, you're really not doing a full check on misuse. And that's something that we discussed, with the board and everything as we were developing the dashboard. So yes, only seats that were installed on arrival that you can kind of check misuse on. That's a great question.
Thank you. Oh, one
Okay.
more. Sorry. What about kiddos that arrive unrestrained? Is that considered misuse?
Yes, that is considered misuse. So if you mark unrestrained on the form, that's definitely, because that's a pretty egregious misuse. So yeah, that goes in as misuse.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you, Amy. Now we are going to pass it on over to Cesi Velez, who is going to talk about the work that she's doing in the state of Washington and how she's utilizing the NDCF data. Cesi.
Hello, am I coming over okay?
Yes, thank you.
Great. All right. Well, my name is Cesi Velez. I'm the project manager for Washington's Child Passenger Safety Program. I'm going to start by just giving a little information about our state on the next slide. We have over 400, there's about 450 right now, child passenger safety technicians, 24 instructors, and we currently have 2 instructor candidates. So we're excited about that. We normally have 10 to 12 CPST courses a year. This year we're anticipating 17, so we're very excited about that too. And 3 of those courses are going to be dedicated to tribal members. Next slide. So this map represents our current network of 100, approximately 100 child passenger safety car seat check stations and services. So this includes 19 virtual seat check services. Because of our geographic range, to cover, and the span of trying to reach families, throughout the state. These are really valuable when it comes to those places where we don't have teams or established services. And then the services represent regularly scheduled events. It might be monthly, quarterly, and then also yearly scheduled outreach opportunities, and then others that just perform checks by appointment. Next slide. Okay, so in order for me to cover our state, I wanted to explain a little bit how our system is set up. So with the 400 plus technicians and 100 car seat services, I partner with dedicated groups of individuals, which enables me to reach all areas of the state. And so this is a network of Target Zero managers, Safe Kids coordinators, and local child passenger safety team leads. This network of child passenger safety leadership at the local level is structured around our 17 regions that we have covering the state of Washington. So with our state mapped out into 17 regions, there's an identified CPS leadership in each region, and then the local technicians are made aware and connected to that local leadership. And so it's a kind of a level of information and support of communication. So now with that established, we need the data. So this is where the NDCF came in. So on here, we have some photos I wanted to share because when the opportunity presented itself for Washington State to transition from the Safe Kids Worldwide form, along with our state's generic form, I hesitated just long enough to get other people on board and see how it went for them. And then, of course, I liked it because it was free. It allowed for electronic or or paper form to be used. It provided the same guidance to a tech performing a seat check, and then it promised to provide us some data. So Washington's CPS program was able to make an initial purchase of 220 iPad mini tablets, not yet, and distribute to active child passenger safety technicians. So as you can see, this was a task involving several volunteers to include my boyfriend, my granddaughter, and my dog, Apollo, and that's in my garage. This program allowed me to collect how many seat checks were performed and distributed and that misuse data. So there was certainly a limited amount of pushback on transitioning to the NDCF. However, in 2023, at the start of the fiscal year, the state's Child Passenger Safety Mini Grant Program was required active use of the NDCF. So that was quite an incentive. Now we're ready for the next one. So each person requesting use of a tablet was required to sign a user agreement. And then before distributing the tablets, each was marked as state property and put in a protective case and accompanied with a hard copy user guide. So I maintain an overall statewide tracking or inventory list, and then each CPS region, that lead in each of those 17 regions, tracks for their local network. Some users opted to use their own device, or some wanted to continue to use a hard copy, then input on their desktop. So it's kind of nice to provide that the alternative approaches to the NDCF. And then we also provide users free pre-printed forms in English and Spanish, and those they can go to our state printer and order when they have like maybe a Safe Kids Coalition oversees one site that performs regularly scheduled events, and so they can order those for free and have them shipped directly to them. So getting users familiar with the form and inputting their seat checks was the next step. We hosted 5 virtual NDCF user training sessions and then 3 Q&A opportunities. Since we are adding new users all the time, I will be scheduling additional Q&A sessions. The important thing is the data is entered on a timely basis. So I think that's been our biggest challenge. Now, we've got buy-in from users to use the NDCF. It's making sure that upload, when they use an airplane mode, that's done, that if they use a hard copy, it's input into the program. It all depends on their data. So it takes the NDCF support staff time to process the large quantities, as you've seen, of seat check data. So just a reminder that the clean data from the NDCF program is not available until, maybe 6 to 8 weeks after the quarter's end. So to ensure your data is represented in the state's activity report, I encourage all users to refer to this schedule for uploading. So I want them to do it on a routine basis, after a check is completed. But just in case, I also wanted to set some deadlines for inputting that data. So as you can see here, it's just on a quarterly fashion. It coincides with other reporting that they do. And so it's kind of just add this to your list and we'll all be good. So many users want to report out for their own agency or their grant sooner than when the clean data file is available. For that reason, I generate a quarterly report from the raw data file. And so they can see how many checks were performed and how many seats were distributed from the raw data. And they know, I've let them know, this is not the clean data or the final data, but it gives them some almost in time information for their quarterly reporting. So next slide is, additional In addition to the quarterly reports, I generate a yearly report using the clean data file. So this is an example of what I share statewide. I highlight some items just to bring attention. We all know that looking at a lot of data points can be confusing, especially for those who do not routinely work in child passenger safety. So here I brought attention to the age group where most misuse was found, along with what type of seat. And again, this is, just data collected from those seat checks input into the NDCF, but it's important that I provide this data off of the clean data file. So next slide. This is another item shared, which takes the misuse data down another level. So providing the most common areas of misuse, and then on the harness and the seatbelt use is what we're seeing here, and just what I happen to highlight just to bring some attention to it. And then the next slide here is adding one more level to the previous slide. And so what this is doing is breaking down the misuse of the harness and the seatbelt errors. And so now I may change the information and reporting that I generate. Again, this is, providing a year's worth of data, of the clean data. And we finally had a whole year's worth of data from fiscal year 2023. We were inputting in 2022 fiscal year. However, it wasn't a complete year. It was new users. We had half our data coming still from, generic forms, Safe Kids, and the NDCF. So it was hard to pull everything together. 2023 provided us with a complete year. And we have been able to see areas of education that we can focus on when conducting seat checks, as well in classes, media releases, social media, posters, and so on, just as a result of having this data available to us. The next one, I am thankful that in addition to the information collected by the NDCF program, we also have a data dashboard providing information on crashes involving children that resulted in fatality or serious injury. This year, we are very excited to have available to us information collected from observation and intercept surveys. So this information was collected from trained technicians at large market stores frequented by family and with children, and provides a picture of use or non-use that is difficult to capture at seat check events. Both of these items can be found on my website under the wallcarseats.com, and then click on resources and then look at car seat data. And just to put a plug in, that observational intercept survey process is going to be shared at Lifesavers in a data workshop on the final day. So if anybody's attending, it would be a great opportunity to learn more about this data capture. And lastly, my contact information, and I'm housed at the Bonnie Lake Police Department. My email's there, phone number, and wallcarseats.com is where we send everybody for resources, and you'll find a lot of information there as well.
Ceci, thank you so much. You do have a question from Jim. Are you willing to share your budget for your mini pads, the mini pads you purchased?
Yes, I don't have it off the top of my head, but yeah, I certainly can. Jim, if you want to send me a quick email, I'd be happy to talk to you more about that. We had a one-time grant funding opportunity, and we used that for research and development, because the NDCF was new. We knew the potential it had for data, and so yes, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. And then is your user guide on that wacarseat.com website?
Yes, it is. And we've had a few supplements to it since then. Again, we're always learning. And those Q&A sessions, those NDCF users virtual sessions, Jennifer and Joe Powell with Tennessee Tech was amazing. And we will continue to tap into these resources, but we put a lot of focus on what's online available for training.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Ceci. And the work that you're doing in the state of Washington is amazing. And we appreciate, as the NDCF team, all of the feedback that you have provided, because it really helps us to understand the use in the field and really gets us thinking. So we appreciate that.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Next, we're going to transition over to Sid Bradley with the state of Vermont. Sid's program has been utilizing the NDCF, I think, almost since inception statewide. And so Sid is going to talk about the work that they're doing in the state of Vermont and how they're utilizing the NDCF data for his program. Sid, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jennifer. The state of Vermont, if you don't know where we are, we're in the far northeast. We're one of the New England states. We're best known for maple syrup, fall foliage, and Senator Bernie Sanders. Next slide, please. So as Amy mentioned, we've been doing this for quite some time. We started out in 2018 by setting up 5 pilot sites to try out the digital C-check form. And then once we were able to do that, Jennifer and Amy began training all of the C-techs, having statewide virtual meetings, and then we went around to specific assistance stations to help them if they needed some specific help. And then we have been collecting data since 2019. January 1st, 2019, we went live. It is the only form that is used in the state that I'm aware of anyways. And we are getting some, so we're in it about 5 years now, so we're getting some good data. Next slide. So using what I am currently using the data for most currently is we're trying to change the car seat law in Vermont. It is a barely adequate law at the present time, so we proposed a 2-year age for rear-facing only, or rear-facing car seats, 5-year age for being in a harness seat, whether that be rear-facing or forward-facing. We propose that they remain in a booster seat until age 9, but the Senate already changed that back to age 8. And we are proposing that children stay in the back seat until they're 13 years old, and make that part of the law rather than just a recommendation by the car manufacturers. So our law, so far, it looks pretty promising. It's gone through the Senate. It crossed over. It was in the House Transportation Committee last week. One of our instructors, who's a law enforcement lieutenant, went in and did some testifying on that. I believe it's going to come out of the House committee and for full vote, and hopefully we'll have a new law in a month or two. So here's an example of how we use the data in our proposal. So Vermont, we have a misuse rate of about 54%. Which of course is a little over half of the seats that are checked are misused. I realize nationally that's more, but I'm not sure why we're doing such a good job, but we are. So all rear-facing car seats combined make the largest number of, all rear-facing seats combined make the largest number of misuses. As is typical in the national data, we have more rear-facing only seats, more newborn seats checked than any other type of seat. But if you're looking for misuse data and you're using your table tool, which is one of the tools that you can use in your dashboard, we, sorry, it's cut off on the top of mine, so let me just get there. So we did, we sorted that by inspection year and any misuse, and to get any specific information that the legislators wanted. But we found that the most useful information we had had to do with how many seat checks were done in any particular county of the state, because our legislative districts are either whole or more than one county for each legislator that's there. And so to give them an idea of what was happening in their area, and we were able to break it down by caregiver county and the seats checked, so that they knew that it was being used active there, and the parents really are using car seats and are looking for guidance, because really that's what the law is. It's really more guidance. You're not going to use law enforcement to make this all work for you. It's parents looking at it saying, oh, the law is 2, so I should stay rear facing to age 2, and so on and so forth. So to get the caregiver by county, you take the table tool, you can sort it by inspection year and the caregiver county, or you can sort it by column Q for any specific time period, and get the data that you need to for that information. Next slide. So I don't want you to think that we used all NDCF data for the law. We've been asked questions along the way. Some of it we submitted at the beginning, but we use Siren data, which is the crash data collected in Vermont. We use the AAP recommendations, and the head of the AAP in Vermont, Dr. Becca Bell, did some great consulting work with us. We use NHTSA crash data. We use the National Government Highway Safety Administration data. We create a drive time map here in Vermont. Our goal has always been to have a assistance station within a half an hour of every residence in home in the state of Vermont. We use SafeKids data for a location of where our child passenger safety technicians were by county, because we sent that to the legislators. And I wanted to also mention to you that we all of our state offices that deal with children, it's called the Department of Children and Family Services, mostly foster children. We have a child passenger safety technician, at least one, more in many places, in each one of those offices. But one of the reasons we get a lot of rear-facing car seat checks is because we have all of our hospitals that have a birthing unit have at least one CPST on board, and quite frankly, most of them have 8 or 9. So they're getting their seats checked at birth and at discharge. We also have a very robust low-income seat distribution, and so there's really no reason in the state of Vermont for anyone to be out there with their children not in a car seat because they can't afford it or anything like that. So we can get that to them, and we let people know all about that. All of our hospitals have access to our low income program seats, and then all of our assistance stations, and we have 81 of those. Now, mind you, we're a small state. We're only 700,000 people in our whole state. We have over 200 child passenger safety technicians, and we have about 14 instructors and a whole lot of tech proxies just to make it all work. Okay, next slide. So here's one of the things that I wanted to mention to folks. Another way that I use the data. I use one of the ways that I continue to get funding for car seats, and because it comes out of our general funds for the most part, is I need to keep a pretty good track of where the low income seats are going. And I use the NDCF for that. Now, you see that little box there where it says CPS text only, use only. That is actually a 3x3 fluorescent sticker that I put on every box of car seats that go out. And that's just to remind other folks that may be around that those seats can only be given out by a CPS technician. And I found since I started putting that on there, I have better luck, because we used to have seats being given out by nurses at hospitals thinking that they were hospital seats or whatever they were, but not by child passenger safety technicians. So all of our seats we're doing a much better job of accounting for the seats that we give out by putting that sticker on the actual box. Now, using a download raw data, if you're new to this, I've been a coordinator since 2016, but if you're new to this, You go to the coordinator's homepage, select the date range in the data field, and you sort your Excel spreadsheet using column CL. Because one of the things they should be putting in is in 39A, if it's a seat given out that was purchased through state funds, you can sort that and it'll come up state funds. So you can account for them quite easily in there. Next slide, please. But not only do we use the data to keep track of the seats, but it also allows me to make sure that those assistance stations that are giving out car seats are doing their job of putting the data into the National Digital Seat Check System. And so when they send me a seat order, which is electronically done, one of the things I do is I go into the download the raw data section, and I sort using the S column for agencies and put it in alphabetical order. And then I go see if it's UVM Medical Center, I go to UVM Medical Center and I see if they have been entering the data as we would expect them to. And if they haven't, then I ask them to please make sure they get their data in before I send them some seats. And so that's worked out pretty well, making it so that I can have a check-in with all those assistance stations as they are ordering more seats. And so we just went through a little funding crunch. I was able to be pretty accurate with the number of seats that we have given out for the year, and was able to get some additional funding to get us through to the end of this state fiscal year. Next slide. So one of the more fun ways that I use the data is I put out well, at least monthly, sometimes more than that, CPS newsletter, Vermont CPS newsletter. And so sometime in November, I sent out a newsletter, and I do this almost quarterly. I have a section that's called By the Numbers, and then in particular, this one was for federal fiscal year 2023. And so at that time, for the federal fiscal year, we'd done 2,055 seat checks. And then I told them what our misuse rate is. I told them, I was able to communicate to our child protective safety technicians that, Toyota is still the most popular make of car, despite the commercials on TV that say Subaru is, but Subaru is second in Vermont. And then the most popular car seats are the Graco Snug Ride and the Kiko Keyfit. And just last year was the Kiko Keyfit. So Graco must be doing something right about marketing, because they're now our number one used seat that goes through a seat check. I took the hospitals, University of Vermont Medical Center. They did 461 seat checks during that time period. The Northwest Medical Center did 315, and then the Central Vermont Hospital did 134, and I ranked them. So we have about 9 or 10 hospitals that participate in the program, but these are the ones that have done the most C checks. Now, from the Sheriff's Department perspective, Chittenden County had the most, Addison County had next, and then it was Washington County. The 3 top police departments were Colchester, Montpelier, and South Burlington. The fire departments were Rutland City, Williston, Bristol, and Highgate. I had to do 4 there because, Highgate being only 1 seat behind Bristol just didn't seem right. So I wanted to make sure I got them all in there. And then the EMS folks, it's Richmond, Linden, and Waterbury. And then because when I do a mobile seat check event, we put down the agency as the Vermont Department of Health, which is my agency, I was able to sort through the mobile events. We did 29 mobile events, and I could do a tally of everything that we did during all those. Now, I didn't get the last one out of the data. The 30 educational tables, I keep a separate spreadsheet for that. But it's just it's a fun way to let your techs know that it's important to enter their data, and gives them some recognition for what they're doing. And I try to do, when I do it quarterly, I try to do something that recognizes those folks that are using it the most, and this being one example of that. And that's my contact information. And I got 2 minutes. Wow, whew, I did it.
You did it, Sid. That was amazing. Thank you so much, Sid, and your program for being really early innovators with the NDCF, and that, being so supportive from the very beginning. And to me, it's fascinating to see the way that programs are utilizing the NDCF within their states. And I think that, every state is unique in the way that they run their program. And so I hope that you're able to find some valuable takeaways that you could maybe look at things differently in your state, or looking at ideas and ways that you could utilize the NDCF in your program. And I see, Amy, you have your hand up, so I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, the question's actually from Casey Ray, and I think it's for Sid. Have you found these by the numbers newsletters created any competition among the agencies to make the list?
Great question.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think, we're all fairly mature, so I don't think it's in any sort of a negative way of the competition, but it certainly makes them aware of this place is doing this amount, and if I want to move up on the list, then we now know what the benchmark is for us to get there. So I think it does a little bit of that, and I do have some folks that are very eager to be competitive, so it all works out.
Sure.
Casey says she meant it in a positive way.
Great question, Casey. Thank you, Sid. I see that we are at the top of the hour. That went really fast. I know that was a lot of information, but if anybody else has any additional questions, Mandy, I'll turn it over to you to close us out. And we're happy to stay on the line for a few more minutes if anybody wants to continue the conversation.
Thanks, Jennifer. And thanks to all of our speakers. Wow. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty inspired right now. There's some amazing talent and some pretty inspirational people out there. So if you do have questions, please stick around and ask. If not, we'll get through these last couple of slides real quick, let you know what's coming. There are 2 upcoming CPS Coordinators Forum. April 24th will be Pediatric Vehicular Heat Stroke. Wednesday, May 22nd will be Mentoring Instructors, things you can do, new or maybe not. We have an upcoming CEU webinar with Emily from Consumer Reports Research and Vehicle Rear Safety. So please join that. Please sign up at cpsboard.org/webinars. One last little note, Dr. Bull is going to be retiring from the CPS board, not her real job, but if you would like to send her a note, share a photo, we have a Kudo board going. There's a scan code on the bottom of this. Everyone in the entire nation world is welcome to leave her a note and thank her for her many, many years of dedicated service. So please join us. And last slide, thank you again for coming. Again, this will be posted in a couple of days and we'll stick around for a few questions. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mandy. Always appreciate the opportunity to share information.
Oh my gosh, you guys are amazing. And I cannot believe how many seat checks have been recorded. And Cesi, can we all just copy your program? Can we copy what you were doing? Because oh my goodness, you have got it.
I share with anybody. I love helping others and even other states. And so, but we're still learning. I mean, it's just like I get ideas from Sid. I mean, it's like, I want to try that, and and like I said, I still feel so new in this whole process because we've only had 1 year's worth of data. So I'm just excited to see what else can be done with it and shared. So.
You are clearly